How's it going, everybody? Check volume. It's still good. Everything going okay? In all things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive. So that is a parabolistic Bible verse meant to confuse those that dwell on the earth, that it's a magic genie, and that prayer changes things. And of course, we know that God's already ordained the end from the beginning. Everything is set. I think we saw and how they cryptically showed us in Back to the Future, you alter one thing, it changes everything. And God's declared the end. Revelation is written. Everything is exact of what he declared, what he ordained before the earth was even formed. I know that whatsoever has been in the mind of God, it shall be forever. And nothing can be put to it. I don't know if I'm butchering that. Ecclesiastes 3:9 King. Goodness gracious. For that which befalleth the sons of men, beast, even that they have. So I know that whatsoever has been in the mind of God, it shall be forever. I know that what has been in the mind of God, it shall be forever. See how I butchered it from it's 3:14, not 3:19. Goober doober. I know that whatsoever God doeth, it shall be forever. Nothing can be put to it. That means your prayers, nor anything taken from it. That means your prayers. And God doeth it, which was italicized, added in, that men should fear before him. Now, it and men were added. You can see it's in italics. So the way it actually read in the Greek was, and God doeth that should fear before him. So they added the pronoun men, of course, which means mankind in this particular case. But the word was before anything was. And that means every story in the word was already scripted and written. As we go over many times, there's no such thing as free will, and prayer changes nothing. So what you're reading is a parabolistic Bible verse. It's a word I invented. It's a parable type verse meant to confuse. Remember, believing is the verb, faith is the noun. Faith comes by hearing Jesus, real faith, proper faith. And real faith is your walk and your proof of salvation. So it's Romans 10:17, it's Hebrews 11:1, that it's evidence of the Holy Spirit. And we know in James 2:14 through 26 that faith without works is dead. So it is the proper walk. We know that God knows the things you need before you ask. So what you're asking is to bow to his will, and you will receive his will. If we could translate that through the parable as it's written. Remember, Jesus is the word. Jesus spoke in parables. The entire word is one big parable. It is meant to confuse. It is not meant for goats. And when he was come into the temple, the chief priest and the elders of the people came unto him as he was teaching and said, by what authority doest thou these things? Who gave thee this authority? And Jesus answered and said unto them, I also will ask you one thing, which if ye tell me, I in likewise will tell you by what authority I do these things. The baptism of John, whence was it? Was it from heaven or of men? And they reasoned with themselves, saying, "Oh, excuse me. If we shall say from heaven, he will say to us, then why did we not believe that John the Baptist was doing great things for God? But if we shall say of men, we fear the people, for all hold John as a prophet." And they answered Jesus and said, "We cannot tell." And so then, and likewise, Jesus said back to them, "Neither am I going to tell you by what authority I do these things. But what think ye? A certain man had two sons." Sounds like a parable is beginning. "And he came to the first and said, Son, go work today in my vineyard. And he answered and said, I will not. But afterward he repented and went. He came to the second and said likewise. And he answered and said, I go, sir. But he didn't actually go. So we'll get to the rest of that tomorrow. Let's move over and finish Daniel 2. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. So powerful. Did y'all watch or listen to yesterday's study? How the rock smashed the feet and the toes, bringing down the kingdom, which was the statue in the dream. Then the king Nebuchadnezzar fell on his face and worshiped Daniel. Now, he doesn't worship Daniel's God until chapter 4. Nebuchadnezzar's still a lost sheep, but this king of Babylon is a sheep. He's just lost right now. But he is found, as he writes chapter 4 himself. Then the king Nebuchadnezzar fell on his face and worshipped Daniel, and commanded that they should offer an oblation and sweet odors unto him. The king answered unto Daniel and said, Of a truth it is that your God is a God of gods and Lord of kings and a revealer of secrets, seeing that thou couldst reveal this secret. Then the king made Daniel a great man and gave him many great gifts and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon. Imagine that. A sheep like Daniel is in charge of Babylon, or in charge of much of it, as a soon-to-be found sheep, Nebuchadnezzar, is in charge of all. And the chief of the governors over the wise men of Babylon. So Daniel again made him ruler over he was ruler over the whole province, and he was basically specific chief of the governors over all the wise men of Babylon. So he was in charge of the astrologers, the Chaldeans, the soothsayers, the magicians. Daniel did not practice what they practiced, obviously, but he was over them, which is symbolic of how God is over all realms of the spirit world. Then Daniel requested of the king, and he set his buds, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, over the affairs of the province of Babylon, but Daniel sat at the gate of the king. So he was at his right hand, a couple of sheep, even though Nebuchadnezzar is yet to be called, but that's coming up. All right, so we'll start Daniel 3 tomorrow, if the Lord allows it. I'm glad y'all are here. I love you very much. Ask questions anytime. That's what I'm here for.